Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing HFY stories. Hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest uploads. Sam pushed the supermarket's back door open cautiously, peering into the dimly lit parking lot. It was quiet, save for the distant hum of a street lamp flickering overhead. He tightened his grip on the strange woman's arm. Her body trembled lightly, whether from cold or fear, he couldn't tell. "This way," he whispered, steering her toward his old hatchback parked a few rows away. She moved with unsteady steps, leaning on him for support, but her glowing skin made her impossible to miss. Sam pulled the blanket tighter around her. "We've got to do something about that glow," he muttered, half to himself. The woman stopped abruptly and looked up at him, her shimmering eyes narrowing in concentration. The light beneath her skin flickered once, twice, and then dimmed to almost nothing. Sam blinked. "Well, that's convenient," he said, giving her a wry smile. "Guess you can understand me a little, huh?" She nodded faintly, her gaze still scanning the surroundings nervously. He helped her into the passenger seat of his car and shut the door as quietly as he could before climbing into the driver's side. The engine sputtered to life, and Sam couldn't help but glance at her as he pulled out of the parking lot. Even in the faint glow of the dashboard lights, she looked otherworldly. "All right," he said, his hands gripping the wheel tightly. "We've got about 5 minutes before someone realizes we're gone, and I don't know who's after you, but I'd rather not stick around to find out. So, where are we going?" She tilted her head, clearly not understanding the question. Her gaze darted to the sparking device on her collar, and she fiddled with it, her movements deliberate but frustrated. "Let me see that," Sam said, glancing over. "Maybe I can fix it." She hesitated for a moment before unclipping the device and handing it to him. Sam pulled into an empty side street and parked under the shadow of a large oak tree. He turned on the overhead light and inspected the device. It was unlike anything he'd ever seen, sleek and metallic, with faintly glowing lines etched into its surface. "Okay, this is definitely not from Earth," he muttered, flipping it over. "But circuits are circuits, right?" The woman leaned closer, watching him intently as he prodded at the device. Her presence was almost overwhelming, like standing too close to an electric current. Sam shook off the thought and focused. A small compartment on the side caught his attention. He pried it open with his fingernail, revealing a mess of tiny, glowing wires. One of them was severed, sparking weakly. Sam cursed under his breath and reached into the glove compartment, pulling out a small multi-tool. "Hold tight," he said, glancing at her. "I think I can patch this." He carefully aligned the broken wire and used the multi-tool's fine-tipped tweezers to twist the ends together. As soon as the connection was made, the device buzzed softly, and a faint hum filled the car. The woman's eyes widened, and she reached for it, her fingers brushing his. A jolt of warmth shot through Sam's hand, and he flinched. You're welcome, I guess," he said, handing it back to her. She clipped the device to her collar again, and a soft, mechanical voice spoke from it, distorted but understandable. "Translation, partially, restored," it said. The woman turned to Sam, her lips moving in sync with the device's voice. "Thank you." Sam exhaled, leaning back against his seat. "Well, that's progress." "You're welcome. Now, maybe you can tell me what's going on. Who are you? And why were you freezing yourself in the back of a supermarket?" The woman hesitated, her glowing eyes dimming slightly as if she was searching for the right words. "My name. Elira," the device translated. "I am, not from here." "Yeah, no kidding," Sam said. "But why were you in the freezer?" She looked away, her expression pained. "I miscalculated. Environment, too cold. My energy, depleted." Sam frowned. "Energy? Like, what? Food? Electricity?" Elira shook her head. "Different. I need to recover. Safe place. Sam sighed, running a hand through his hair. Okay, Elira, I'll find you a safe place. But you've got to give me more to work with. Are you being chased? And by who? Her gaze snapped back to him, and she nodded quickly. Danger. They want me. You, in danger too. Great, Sam muttered, starting the car again. And here I thought my night couldn't get any worse. As he pulled back onto the road, Elira tensed, her eyes locking onto the side mirror. Sam followed her gaze and felt his stomach drop. Two black SUVs had just turned onto the street behind them, their headlights glaring in the darkness. Let me guess, he said grimly. That's them. Elira nodded, clutching the edge of her seat. Go. Now. Sam didn't need to be told twice. He slammed his foot on the gas, the old hatchback lurching forward with a groan. The SUVs accelerated in response, closing the distance quickly. Hang on. Sam shouted, swerving onto a narrow side street. The tires screeched in protest, but the maneuver bought them a few precious seconds. Elira gripped the dashboard, her glowing skin flickering erratically. Do you have any tricks up your sleeve? Sam asked, glancing at her. Elira's eyes narrowed, and she placed a hand on the dashboard. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the air inside the car grew warmer, and the engine's usual sputtering turned into a smooth, powerful hum. The car surged forward, faster than Sam thought possible. What the, he began, but Elira cut him off. Focus. Drive. Sam gritted his teeth and steered the car through the labyrinth of streets, narrowly avoiding collisions as the SUVs struggled to keep up. Elira's intervention gave them the edge they needed, but Sam knew they couldn't keep running forever. We need to lose them, he said. Got any bright ideas? Elira closed her eyes, her glowing skin brightening. A soft hum filled the car again, and the streetlights ahead began to flicker. As they passed under one, the bulb shattered, plunging the road into darkness. The SUVs hesitated, their drivers momentarily disoriented. Sam took the opportunity to veer onto a hidden driveway, cutting the engine and killing the lights. They sat in silence, the sound of their pursuers' engines fading into the distance. That was incredible, Sam said, turning to Elira. But we can't keep this up. We need to figure out our next move. Elira opened her eyes, her expression weary but determined. I must survive. Mission critical. Sam raised an eyebrow. Mission? What mission? Before she could answer, the faint sound of distant drones echoed through the night. Elira's glow flickered, and she looked at Sam, her voice urgent. Run. Sam's heart pounded in his chest as Elira's urgent plea cut through the tense silence of the car. Run, she repeated, her voice strained, the translator adding an eerie mechanical emphasis. The distant buzz of drones was growing louder, closing in from multiple directions. Sam clenched the steering wheel, his mind racing. We can't just sit here, he muttered. But we can't outrun drones in this clunker either. Elira turned to him, her glowing skin dimming as she focused. Hide. Underground. Quickly. Underground? Sam shot her a bewildered look. What do you think this is, a spy movie? I don't know any secret tunnels. She placed a hand on his arm, her touch warm despite her earlier icy state. Trust me. Sam hesitated but nodded. Fine. Hold on. He restarted the engine, the sound louder than he'd have liked in the eerie stillness, and drove cautiously down the hidden driveway. The narrow road led into a cluster of old industrial warehouses, their crumbling facades standing as shadows against the moonlight. This is your plan? Abandoned warehouses? Sam whispered, his voice tinged with doubt. Elira's glowing eyes scanned the surroundings as she gestured for him to stop. Here. Stop. Sam pulled the car to a halt, killing the lights and engine. The buzzing of drones was closer now, accompanied by faint beams of light sweeping through the area like searchlights. "We're sitting ducks here," Sam said, glancing nervously at the approaching lights. "If you've got a trick, now's the time to use it." Alira climbed out of the car, her movements deliberate yet graceful. She placed a hand on the rusty warehouse door, and to Sam's shock, the metal groaned and slid open, revealing a dark stairwell leading down into the earth. "Whoa," Sam said, his eyebrows shooting up. "You just—" Later, Alira interrupted, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward the stairs. "Inside. Now." Sam didn't argue. He grabbed a flashlight from his glove compartment and followed her into the darkness, the heavy door sliding shut behind them as though it had a mind of its own. The stairwell was damp and smelled of mildew, the air growing cooler as they descended. Sam's flashlight beam bounced off crumbling walls and rusted pipes, but the oppressive darkness beyond its reach made him uneasy. "Where does this go?" he asked, his voice echoing faintly. "Safe. For now," Alira said cryptically, her voice steady despite their harrowing escape. They reached the bottom of the stairs, where the corridor opened into a vast underground space. It was some kind of abandoned fallout shelter, complete with rusted bunk beds, outdated equipment, and long-dead fluorescent lights hanging precariously from the ceiling. Sam swept the flashlight around the room. "Okay, I'll admit, this is better than sitting in the car." Alira didn't respond immediately. She walked to the center of the room, her glowing skin casting faint shadows on the walls. She closed her eyes and raised her hands, and a low hum filled the air. The room seemed to react to her presence. Old, broken monitors flickered to life, static crackling across their screens. Machinery groaned and whirred, shaking off decades of disuse. Sam took a step back. What are you doing?" "Securing perimeter," Alira said, her eyes still closed. "They will not find us." "Not yet." Sam exhaled, leaning against a rusted console. "Okay. You're officially the strangest thing that's ever happened to me. And that's saying something." Alira opened her eyes, the faint glow in her skin stabilizing. "You are safe for now," she said, her voice softer. "Thank you for trusting me." "Trusting you?" Sam laughed nervously. "Let's be real, I'm just going with the flow because the alternative is getting caught by whoever those guys are. Speaking of which, mind telling me who's after you?" Alira hesitated, her gaze dropping. "Hunters. Not human. Sent by those who fear my mission." Sam's eyebrows furrowed. "Not human. Like you?" She nodded. "Yes. My kind. Rogue faction. They want control. Destruction." Sam ran a hand through his hair, trying to process what she was saying. "And what about you? What's your mission?" Alira met his gaze, her glowing eyes filled with a mix of determination and sorrow. "I came to observe. To learn. Your species, at a tipping point. Technology growing. Morality, uncertain." Sam blinked. "So you're, what? An alien scout? Some kind of intergalactic anthropologist?" "Scout," she confirmed. "But also, protector." Before Sam could ask what she meant, a loud clang echoed from above. His stomach dropped. "They found us?" he whispered. Alira's expression darkened. "No. Drones searching. But, close." The old monitors on the console flickered, displaying grainy footage of the warehouse above. Several small, spider-like drones scuttled through the shadows, their glowing red optics scanning the area. "Creepy little things," Sam muttered, watching the screen. "Can they get in here?" Alira shook her head. "Not easily." "I reinforced. But we must leave soon." Sam sighed. "Great. Back to running for our lives. Elira turned to him, her glowing skin brightening slightly. You have courage. And compassion. Rare. Sam chuckled nervously. Yeah, well, let's hope those qualities keep us alive. The hum of the drones grew louder, the sound reverberating through the underground chamber. Sam's grip tightened on the flashlight. We need a plan, he said. If we're going to survive this, we can't just keep running blindly. Do you have a safe place to go? Somewhere they can't follow? Elira hesitated. Yes. But, far. Need time. Resources. Sam frowned. Resources? Like what? She gestured to the broken equipment around them. Power. Signal. To call, home. Home, Sam repeated, the words sinking in. You're trying to contact your people. Elira nodded. Only way. To end this. Sam exhaled, running a hand through his hair. Okay. Let's figure out how to get you what you need. But first, we've got to get out of here without those things turning us into Swiss cheese. Elira stepped closer, her glowing skin casting faint light over his face. I will protect you, she said softly. I promise. Sam looked into her shimmering eyes, a strange mix of fear and trust settling in his chest. I hope you're right, Elira. Because I've got a bad feeling about this. The hum of the drones above sent an icy shiver down Sam's spine. On the flickering monitors, the spider-like machines moved with eerie precision, scanning every corner of the warehouse for signs of life. Their glowing red optics lit the shadows like hunting eyes. Sam paced nervously, his flashlight beam darting around the underground chamber. Okay, Elira, you said they can't get in here easily. What happens when easily turns into inevitably? Elira stood by the rusted console, her glowing fingers tracing the edges of its cracked surface. I can buy us time, she said, her voice calm but strained. But not much. They will breach soon. That's not exactly reassuring, Sam muttered. He looked around the room, searching for anything that resembled a weapon. All he saw were broken pipes, rusted tools, and old debris. You wouldn't happen to have a laser gun or something tucked away, would you? Elira tilted her head, her faintly glowing eyes narrowing in confusion. Laser, gun. Never mind, Sam said, waving it off. What's the plan? You said you need resources. Can you explain what we're looking for before those things turn us into a late-night news headline? Elira turned to face him fully. I need power. A transmitter. To call my kind. Sam sighed, glancing around the decaying shelter. Right. Because this place screams state-of-the-art technology. Elira didn't respond. Instead, she raised her hands, her glow intensifying as she closed her eyes in concentration. The hum that filled the air before returned, deeper this time, vibrating through the floor. The broken monitors and equipment around them flickered to life, their screens displaying strange symbols and pulsing light. Sam stared, his mouth slightly open. Okay, I take back what I said. You're basically a walking battery. Elira opened her eyes, her skin dimming slightly. Not enough. These machines, too old. We must find better. Figures, Sam muttered. He glanced back at the monitors, where the drones continued their relentless search. One of them paused, its optics narrowing as it focused on the ground near the warehouse entrance. Sam's stomach sank. They're on to us. We've got to move. Elira nodded, stepping away from the console. I will create a distraction. You must lead the way. Sam blinked. Wait, what? Me? You're the one with the glowing superpowers. She placed a hand on his shoulder, her gaze steady. You know this place. This world. I trust you. Sam hesitated, her words catching him off guard. He wanted to argue, to point out that he was just a regular guy who had no idea how to handle alien pursuers, but the look in her glowing eyes silenced him. "Fine," he said, grabbing his flashlight and glancing toward the stairwell. "But if we die, I'm blaming you." Alira's lips curved into a faint smile. "We won't die. Not today." The two of them moved quickly but quietly, climbing the stairs back toward the surface. Alira's glow dimmed completely as they approached the heavy metal door, leaving them in near total darkness. Sam pressed his ear to the cold steel, listening for any sounds from the other side. "They're still up there," he whispered. "I count at least 3 drones. Maybe more." Alira's voice was barely audible. "I will draw them away." Sam frowned. "How? You said they're not human." "I doubt you can just trick them." Alira held up a hand, and the faint hum returned. The air around her seemed to shimmer, like heat rising from asphalt on a summer day. She stepped back, her glow increasing slightly, and the shimmer expanded, forming a distorted silhouette of her own body. The shimmering projection moved away from her, heading up the stairs and phasing through the door. Sam gaped. "Is that a hologram?" "Similar," Alira said, her voice strained. "It will mimic my presence. Distract them. But it won't last long." Sam nodded, his respect for her abilities growing. "All right. Let's move." He pushed the door open just enough to peek out. The warehouse above was dimly lit, the shadows deep and jagged. The drones were clustered near the holographic projection of Alira, their red optics glowing brighter as they scanned it. The buzzing noise of their movement filled the air, sharp and grating. Sam motioned for Alira to follow as he slipped out of the stairwell. Keeping low, they moved along the edges of the warehouse, ducking behind stacks of rusted machinery and broken crates. The exit was only a few yards away, but every step felt like an eternity. Behind them, the drones began to emit a high-pitched whine. Sam glanced back and saw the hologram flicker and fade. The drones hesitated for a moment before whirring to life again, their optics sweeping the room. "They're on to us," Sam hissed, breaking into a sprint. The buzzing grew louder as the drones gave chase. Sam and Alira burst through the warehouse doors and into the open night, the cold air stinging Sam's lungs. His car was parked nearby, but the drones were too close. "This way!" Sam shouted, leading Alira toward a row of abandoned shipping containers. They ducked into one of the containers, the metallic clang of their footsteps echoing inside. Alira pressed her hands to the container walls, her glow intensifying. The hum returned, and the air around them seemed to thicken. Sam's ears popped as a faint barrier shimmered into existence around the container. "What did you do?" Sam asked, catching his breath. "Shield," Alira said, her voice faint. "Temporary. They will not detect us, for now." Sam slumped against the wall, his chest heaving. "You're full of surprises, you know that." Alira managed a faint smile but said nothing. Her glow was dimmer now, her movement slower. "Hey," Sam said, leaning closer. "Are you okay?" She nodded weakly. "Energy, depleted. Need rest." Sam frowned, his concern growing. "You're not going to collapse on me, are you?" "I'll be fine," Alira said, closing her eyes. "Just need time." Sam sighed, running a hand through his hair. The drones were still out there, and it was only a matter of time before they found a way past the shield. They couldn't stay here long. "All right," he said, more to himself than to her. "First things first, we figure out where to go next. Then we get you what you need to call your people. And after that." He trailed off, realizing he had no idea what came after that. He glanced at Alira, who was now slumped against the wall, her breathing shallow but steady. "One thing at a time," he muttered, sitting down beside her. One thing at a time. The air inside the shipping container was thick with tension. Sam sat cross-legged next to Alira, his back against the cold metal wall. Outside, the faint buzz of the drones lingered, circling like predators waiting for their prey to make a mistake. Alira's breathing was slow but steady, her glow reduced to faint flickers like dying embers. Sam glanced at her, wondering how someone who seemed so otherworldly could also look so vulnerable. "We can't stay here," he muttered under his breath. "They're not going to give up." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through maps of the area. It wasn't much help, there were no marked exits or places that screamed alien-friendly shelter. Most of the warehouses and industrial lots around them were abandoned, the perfect spot for a trap. Alira stirred beside him, her glowing eyes fluttering open. "Sam," she murmured, her voice weak. He leaned closer. "Yeah. You okay?" She nodded faintly, then pointed toward his phone. "That device. Communication." Sam frowned, holding up his phone. "This? It's not exactly interstellar tech. It's barely good for streaming cat videos." Alira gave him a faint smile, her glow brightening just slightly. "May work. If modified." "Modified?" Sam raised an eyebrow. "You mean you can use this to call your people?" "Not directly," she explained, her voice steadier now. "But it can amplify signal. Boost range. I need something more powerful." Sam glanced at the phone again, skeptical. "Well, it's not much, but if you think it'll help, be my guest." Alira reached out, her fingers brushing the phone's screen. Her touch was warm, and a faint hum filled the air as the device flickered to life, its screen glowing brighter than it should. Lines of alien code appeared, scrolling across the display faster than Sam could follow. "Whoa," he said, pulling back slightly. "You're not going to fry it, are you? That's my only phone." "Trust me," Alira said softly, her focus unwavering. Sam watched in silence as she worked, her glowing fingers tracing patterns over the phone's surface. The hum grew louder, and for a moment, the container seemed to vibrate. Then, as suddenly as it started, the hum stopped. Alira handed the phone back to him, her hand trembling slightly. "Done," she said. "Now, we find stronger signal source." Sam examined the phone. It looked normal enough, but when he unlocked it, the screen displayed a pulsing alien symbol in the center. "What am I even looking at?" "Beacon," Alira explained. "Temporary. Will guide me to signal source." Sam sighed, shoving the phone into his pocket. "All right. Let's find this signal source of yours. But how do we get out of here without those drones turning us into Swiss cheese?" Alira closed her eyes, her glow flickering as she concentrated. "Shield, weakening. We must go, now." Sam pushed himself to his feet, peeking out through a small gap in the container's door. The drones were still circling, their red optics scanning the area methodically. He took a deep breath. "Okay," he whispered. "We're going to need a distraction. Any chance you can whip up another one of those holograms?" Alira shook her head. "Too weak. Not enough energy." "Figures," Sam muttered. He looked around the container, his eyes landing on a rusted fire extinguisher lying in the corner. An idea began to form in his mind. "All right," he said, grabbing the extinguisher. "This might be crazy, but it's all I've got." Alira watched him curiously as he positioned the extinguisher near the door. "What are you doing?" "Making some noise," Sam replied. He grabbed a piece of metal debris and wedged it against the extinguisher's handle. As soon as he opened the container door, the extinguisher hissed loudly, spraying a plume of white mist into the air. The drones immediately whirred to life, their optics locking onto the movement. Sam grabbed Alira's hand and pulled her out of the container, running in the opposite direction while the drones converged on the distraction. This way, he shouted, his flashlight bouncing wildly as they darted through the maze of shipping containers. Behind them, the drones realized their mistake and resumed the chase, their buzzing growing louder. Sam's heart raced as they rounded a corner and came face to face with a chain-link fence topped with barbed wire. Of course, he muttered, glancing back at the approaching drones. Why wouldn't there be a fence? Aelira stepped forward, her glowing hand reaching for the fence. The metal sparked and sizzled under her touch, and within seconds, a small section melted away, leaving just enough room for them to slip through. Sam stared in awe. Remind me to never get on your bad side. Aelira managed a faint smile. Go. Quickly. They squeezed through the gap and continued running, the industrial lot giving way to an overgrown field. Sam's legs burned, and his lungs felt like they were on fire, but he didn't dare slow down. Finally, they reached a small, run-down radio tower on the edge of the field. Sam skidded to a stop, doubling over to catch his breath. This is it, right? He panted, pointing at the tower. Signal source. Aelira nodded, her glowing skin flickering. Yes. Must climb. Connect device. Climb. Sam groaned, looking up at the rusted structure. Of course. Why not? He helped Aelira to the base of the tower, her movements slow and unsteady. She handed him the modified phone. You must do it, she said, her voice weak. I cannot climb. Sam stared at the tower, then back at Aelira. You're kidding, right? I'm not exactly Spider-Man. Trust you, Aelira said, her glowing eyes meeting his. Sam sighed, slipping the phone into his pocket. Fine. But if I fall, I'm haunting you. The climb was harder than he'd expected. The rusted metal groaned under his weight, and every step felt like it could be his last. Below, Aelira stood watch, her glow faint but steady. When he finally reached the top, he found a small panel with a nest of wires. Pulling out the phone, he hesitated for a moment before connecting it to the panel. The phone's screen lit up, and the alien symbol began to pulse faster. A faint hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Aelira? Sam called down. I think it's working. A sudden explosion of light burst from the phone, shooting into the sky like a beacon. Sam shielded his eyes, gripping the tower tightly as it shook under the force of the energy. The hum reached a deafening pitch, then abruptly stopped. The night fell silent, save for the faint buzz of the drones in the distance. Sam climbed back down, his legs trembling. Please tell me that did something. Aelira nodded, her glow brightening. Signal, sent. My people will come. Great, Sam said, collapsing onto the ground. Now we just have to survive until they get here. Sam lay on the ground, his chest heaving as he stared up at the radio tower. The light from the alien signal had faded, leaving the field bathed in the faint glow of the moon. He turned his head toward Aelira, who sat cross-legged a few feet away, her faint luminescence now steady and calm. So, Sam said between breaths, how long until your people show up? Aelira tilted her head, her glowing eyes narrowing in thought. Not long. But time here, different. Sam frowned. Different? Like, minutes different? Hours different? Please don't say years. Aelira's expression softened. Soon. I promise. Sam groaned, sitting up. Well, soon better be faster than those drones. They'll figure out we're here eventually. As if on cue, the faint hum of drones in the distance grew louder. Aelira's gaze snapped toward the sound, her glow intensifying. They come. Of course they do, Sam muttered, scrambling to his feet. He scanned the area for an escape route but found nothing promising. The open field stretched in every direction, with only the rusted radio tower and a few scattered bushes for cover. Alira stood, her movements slow but deliberate. We fight. Sam blinked. Fight? With what? All I've got is a flashlight and a lot of bad ideas. She raised her hand, her glow brightening to a blinding intensity. The hum of energy filled the air as the grass around her began to sway, as though caught in an invisible wind. I will protect us. Sam hesitated, his instinct screaming at him to run, but something in Alira's calm determination made him stay. The first drone appeared over the hill, its red optics scanning the area. A second and third followed, their mechanical limbs moving with unnerving precision. Alira stepped forward, her glow pulsing rhythmically. The drones paused, their optics flickering as though they were assessing the situation. Then, with a deafening whine, they surged forward. Here we go, Sam muttered, ducking behind a nearby bush. Alira raised both hands, and a wave of energy erupted from her, slamming into the lead drone. The machine twisted violently in midair before crashing to the ground in a shower of sparks. The other two drones split apart, flanking her from both sides. Sam watched in awe as Alira moved with unnatural grace, her glowing form a blur of light and energy. She struck the second drone with a concentrated beam of light, slicing it cleanly in half. The third, however, managed to dodge her attack, its red optics locking onto her. Alira, look out! Sam shouted, stepping out of cover. The drone fired a pulse of energy, and Alira staggered as it struck her shoulder. Her glow dimmed, and she fell to one knee. Sam didn't think, he grabbed a rock from the ground and hurled it at the drone. The impact was minimal, but it was enough to draw the machine's attention. Hey! Over here, he yelled, waving his arms. The drone swiveled toward him, its optics glowing menacingly. Sam's heart pounded as it began to move in his direction, its mechanical limbs clicking ominously against the ground. Before it could reach him, Alira rose to her feet, her glow surging to an almost blinding intensity. She unleashed a powerful burst of energy, disintegrating the drone in a flash of light. Sam shielded his eyes, the heat of the blast washing over him. When he looked again, the field was silent. The drones were nothing more than smoldering debris scattered across the ground. Alira stood in the center, her glow flickering weakly. You okay? Sam asked, rushing to her side. She nodded, though her movements were sluggish. I am fine. But, energy low. Great, Sam said, helping her steady herself. Let's hope your people show up soon, or we're toast. Before Alira could respond, the distant sound of engines rumbled through the night. Sam tensed, his eyes narrowing as a pair of black SUVs emerged from the tree line, their headlights cutting through the darkness. You've got to be kidding me, he muttered. These guys again? The SUVs skidded to a halt, and a group of men in tactical gear poured out, their weapons trained on Sam and Alira. One of them stepped forward, his face obscured by the shadow of his helmet. Step away from her, the man commanded, his voice cold and authoritative. Now. Sam raised his hands, his mind racing. Look, I don't know who you guys are, but we're not looking for trouble. Trouble found you, the man said, motioning to his team. Take her. Neutralize him. The soldiers advanced, their weapons glinting in the moonlight. Alira stepped forward, her glow intensifying despite her weakened state. Stay back, she warned, her voice firm. The lead soldier chuckled. Your tricks won't work this time, alien. Sam's stomach sank. Wait a minute, how do you know? His words were cut off as one of the soldiers fired a dart into Alira's arm. She stumbled, her glow fading rapidly as the tranquilizer took effect. Alira! Sam shouted, catching her as she collapsed. Secure the target, the lead soldier ordered. Bring them both. Sam's grip tightened on Alira's arm as two soldiers approached. Get away from her, he yelled, his voice shaking. Stand down, one of the soldiers said, leveling his weapon at Sam. You're out of your depth. Sam clenched his teeth, his mind racing. He glanced at Aelira, who was barely conscious, her glowing eyes pleading with him. Then, in the chaos, a voice cut through the night. Enough. The soldiers froze as a figure stepped out from the shadows. Sam's heart sank as he recognized the man, his old friend, Marcus. Marcus? Sam said, his voice a mix of confusion and betrayal. Marcus gave him a tight smile. Sorry, Sam. It's nothing personal. You just got in the way. What the hell is this? Sam demanded, his hands tightening into fists. Marcus shrugged. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse. You should have stayed out of it. Sam stared at him, a mix of anger and disbelief coursing through him. You sold us out. Survival of the fittest, buddy, Marcus said, his smile fading. Now, hand her over. Sam looked down at Aelira, her faint glow a reminder of everything she'd fought for. His jaw tightened. Over my dead body, he said. Marcus sighed. Have it your way. Sam didn't wait for Marcus to make the next move. Adrenaline surged through his veins as he bent down, gently lowering Aelira to the ground behind him. His fists clenched, and he stepped forward, putting himself between her and the armed men. Marcus, Sam said, his voice shaking with a mixture of anger and desperation, you don't have to do this. You know me. You know I wouldn't be in this mess unless it mattered. Marcus smirked, but there was a flicker of hesitation in his eyes. Don't make this harder than it has to be, Sam. This isn't about you. It's about her. He pointed toward Aelira, his expression hardening. She doesn't belong here. She's not a threat. Sam shouted. She's just trying to survive. And I'm not going to let you hand her over to, whoever the hell these people are. The lead soldier raised his weapon, his cold gaze fixed on Sam. You've had your chance to comply. Stand down, or we'll put you down. Sam's heart raced as he looked around. The tactical team had them surrounded, their weapons trained on him and Aelira. He didn't stand a chance in a direct confrontation, but giving up wasn't an option. From behind him, Aelira's weak voice broke through the tension. Sam, she whispered, her glowing eyes barely open. Go. No way, Sam replied, glancing over his shoulder. I'm not leaving you. Aelira struggled to sit up, her glow flickering faintly. I can protect myself. Sam shook his head, turning back to the soldiers. We're not going anywhere with you, he said firmly, his voice steady despite the fear clawing at his chest. The lead soldier raised a hand, signaling his team to move in. Take them. The soldiers advanced, their heavy boots crunching against the dirt. Sam's fists tightened, and he prepared to fight, no matter how futile it might be. Then, without warning, a surge of light erupted behind him. Aelira's glow intensified, flooding the field with a radiant, pulsating energy. The soldiers froze, shielding their eyes as the wave of energy rippled outward, disrupting their equipment. Radios crackled, and the optics on their weapons flickered erratically. Sam turned to see Aelira standing, her body a beacon of light and power. Her voice, stronger now, resonated with a commanding presence. Enough. The lead soldier barked an order, but his voice was drowned out by the hum of Aelira's energy. She raised her hand, and the ground beneath the soldiers began to vibrate. Their weapons were ripped from their hands, flung aside by an invisible force. Marcus stumbled back, his face pale with shock. What the hell is this? He muttered. Aelira. Sam shouted. Be careful. Don't push yourself too hard. She turned to him, her glowing eyes softening. I will not harm them. But I must stop them. With a graceful motion, Aelira extended both hands, and a shimmering barrier of light formed around Sam and herself. The soldiers outside pounded against it, their fists and equipment useless against the glowing shield. Marcus, still outside the barrier, glared at Sam. "You're making a mistake, Sam. These people aren't playing around. They'll hunt you both down. There's nowhere you can run." Sam stepped forward, his fists clenched. "Funny thing, Marcus, I thought we were friends. Friends don't sell each other out." Marcus hesitated, his jaw tightening. "I didn't have a choice." "There's always a choice," Sam shot back. "And you chose wrong." Elira's barrier began to flicker, the strain of maintaining it evident on her face. "Sam," she said, her voice strained. "We must go." Sam nodded, glancing around. The tactical team was regrouping, their commander barking orders as they prepared to launch another assault. He spotted a narrow path leading into the woods beyond the field and pointed toward it. "Over there," he said. "We can lose them in the trees." Elira lowered the barrier, and the two of them sprinted toward the woods. The soldiers opened fire, but their bullets seemed to bend away from Elira's faint energy field, leaving Sam untouched. As they plunged into the dense forest, Sam's lungs burned, but he kept moving, glancing back to make sure Elira was keeping up. Her glow dimmed with each step, but she didn't falter. The sounds of pursuit faded as the trees grew thicker, their shadows swallowing the light of the moon. Sam slowed, helping Elira lean against a tree. Her breathing was labored, her glow now barely visible. "You okay?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. She nodded weakly. "I will recover. Just need time." Sam glanced around, his ears straining for any sign of their pursuers. For now, the forest was silent, but he knew it wouldn't last. He knelt beside Elira, his hand resting on her shoulder. "We need a plan," he said. "We can't keep running forever." Elira met his gaze, her glowing eyes filled with determination. "My people will come. They will find us." "How will they know where to look?" Sam asked. Elira reached out, her hand brushing against his chest. "The beacon. It connects us. They will come." Sam exhaled, leaning back against the tree. "Then we just have to hold out until they do." A rustling noise in the bushes made them both tense. Sam grabbed a fallen branch, ready to defend them, but a moment later, a familiar figure stepped into the clearing. "Marcus?" Sam said, his voice a mix of surprise and anger. Marcus held up his hands, his weapon discarded. "Wait. I'm not here to fight." Sam's grip on the branch tightened. "You've got a lot of nerve showing up after what you pulled." "I made a mistake," Marcus admitted, his voice heavy with regret. "I didn't realize what she is. What you're trying to do." Sam glared at him. "And now you're here to help. Forgive me if I don't buy it." Marcus stepped closer, his expression earnest. "Look, those guys aren't going to stop. If you want to get out of this alive, you're going to need someone who knows how they work. I can help." Elira's gaze softened as she studied Marcus. "He speaks truth," she said. "His regret is real." Sam looked between them, his jaw tightening. "Fine. But if you so much as think about selling us out again, I'll make you regret it." Marcus nodded, his expression grim. "Deal." The sound of distant engines rumbled through the forest, and Marcus turned toward it. "They're coming. We don't have much time." Sam helped Elira to her feet, her glow brightening slightly as she leaned on him. Together, the three of them disappeared deeper into the woods, the faint hope of survival driving them forward. The dense forest became a maze of shadows and tangled roots as Sam, Elira, and Marcus trudged forward. The distant hum of engines grew louder, the searchlights cutting through the night like predatory eyes. The tactical team was closing in. "This way," Marcus whispered, motioning toward a rocky outcrop partially obscured by trees. "There's a cave system up ahead." We can use it to regroup. Sam eyed Marcus warily. Trusting him after his betrayal wasn't easy, but they didn't have much of a choice. Fine, Sam said. But if this is some kind of trap. It's not, Marcus interrupted, his voice firm. You have my word. Aelira, leaning heavily on Sam, looked up. Her glow had diminished to a faint flicker, but her eyes remained steady. We must move. No time for doubt. The trio reached the rocky outcrop and slipped into the narrow entrance of the cave. The air was damp and cool, the faint sound of dripping water echoing off the walls. Sam clicked on his flashlight, illuminating the jagged interior. This isn't exactly a fortress, he muttered. Marcus knelt, pulling a small device from his pocket. It's not about defense, he said. It's about creating a choke point. They'll have to come to us one at a time in here. Sam's flashlight beam wavered as he frowned. You're awfully prepared for someone who just switched sides. Marcus smirked faintly. Old habits die hard. Aelira slumped against the wall, her breathing shallow. Signal, strong now. My people, near. Sam's heart leapt at her words. They're close. How close? Aelira closed her eyes, focusing. Minutes. Maybe, less. Good, Marcus said, standing. Because we've got company. The sound of boots crunching on gravel echoed outside the cave. The tactical team was moving fast, their voices carrying through the narrow passage. Fan out, the lead soldier ordered. Flush them out and neutralize the target. Sam's grip on his flashlight tightened. How many? Marcus peeked around the corner. At least 6. Maybe more. Sam cursed under his breath. We're outnumbered and outgunned. How do we even slow them down? Marcus pulled a small cylinder from his belt and tossed it to Sam. Smoke grenade. It'll buy us time. Time for what? Sam asked, catching it awkwardly. Marcus nodded toward Aelira. Time for her people to get here. This is all about holding the line. Aelira opened her eyes, her faint glow brightening slightly. I will help. Sam shook his head. You're in no condition to fight. She placed a glowing hand on his arm. I must. Before Sam could argue, the first soldier stepped into the cave, his weapon sweeping the area. Marcus lunged forward, knocking the weapon aside and delivering a swift punch to the man's helmet. The soldier stumbled but regained his footing, shouting for backup. Here we go. Marcus shouted, ducking behind a boulder as bullets ricocheted off the cave walls. Sam pulled the pin on the smoke grenade and tossed it toward the entrance. Thick plumes of gray smoke filled the air, obscuring the soldiers' vision and forcing them to move cautiously. In the confusion, Aelira raised her hands, her glow intensifying. The air around her shimmered, and a faint hum filled the cave. The ground trembled as jagged rocks shifted, creating natural barriers that slowed the soldiers' advance. Sam watched in awe. You're full of surprises, you know that. Aelira managed a faint smile. I do what I can. The tactical team pressed forward, their movements hindered by the smoke and shifting terrain. One soldier tried to climb over a rock barrier, only to be struck by a pulse of energy from Aelira. He collapsed, his equipment sparking. Marcus fired a stun round from a pistol he'd taken off the first soldier, knocking another enemy out cold. 2 down, he muttered. 4 to go. The lead soldier's voice cut through the chaos. Suppressing fire. Take them down. Bullets rained through the cave, forcing Sam and Marcus to duck for cover. Aelira's barrier flickered as she struggled to maintain it, her energy visibly draining. We can't hold them off much longer. Marcus shouted. Sam looked at Aelira, his mind racing. Your people are close, right? Can you signal them? Let them know we need backup now. Aelira nodded weakly. Already, did they come? As if on cue, a deafening hum filled the air, louder and more powerful than anything Sam had heard before. A brilliant beam of light shot down from the sky, piercing through the smoke-filled cave entrance. The tactical team froze, their weapons lowering as they stared in shock. A sleek, metallic ship descended above the clearing outside the cave, its surface shimmering with an iridescent glow. The air vibrated with energy as the ship's doors opened, and two tall, glowing figures emerged, their forms radiating an aura of calm authority. The lead soldier barked an order, but before his team could react, the glowing figures raised their hands. Waves of energy pulsed outward, disarming the soldiers and rendering their equipment useless. The tactical team dropped to their knees, their movements sluggish as if weighed down by an invisible force. Sam peeked around the corner, his jaw dropping. "Is that your people?" Alira nodded, her glow brightening slightly. "Yes. My kin." The glowing figures entered the cave, their presence filling the space with a sense of peace and warmth. One of them knelt beside Alira, placing a hand on her shoulder. Her glow stabilized, and her breathing steadied. "You have done well, Alira," the figure said, its voice resonating like a harmonious chord. "We are here to take you home." Alira looked at Sam, her expression soft. "And him?" The figure turned to Sam, studying him with glowing eyes. "He has shown courage. Compassion. He will not be forgotten." Sam scratched the back of his neck, feeling awkward under the alien's gaze. Thanks. I guess." Alira reached out, her glowing hand brushing against Sam's. "You saved me. More than once. For that, I owe you." Sam felt a lump rise in his throat. "It wasn't just about saving you," he said quietly. "It was about doing the right thing." A faint smile crossed Alira's lips. "That is rare. In your kind." The glowing figures helped Alira to her feet, guiding her toward the ship. She paused at the entrance, turning back to look at Sam one last time. "Goodbye, Sam," she said, her voice filled with gratitude. "May your path be bright." Sam nodded, his chest tightening. "Goodbye, Alira. Stay safe out there." The ship's doors closed, and with a burst of light, it ascended into the night sky, disappearing among the stars. Sam stood in the clearing, the hum of its departure fading into silence. Beside him, Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "So, what now?" Sam turned to him, his expression hardening. "Now, we make sure no one ever finds out what really happened here. You got that?" Marcus nodded, his face pale. "Yeah. Got it." Sam looked back at the sky, a faint smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Good luck, Alira," he whispered. "Wherever you are." The forest was eerily silent in the aftermath. The tactical team had been incapacitated, their weapons disarmed and their mission failed. Sam stood in the clearing, staring up at the patch of sky where Alira's ship had disappeared. The faint glow of her presence still lingered in his mind, a warmth that hadn't entirely left his chest. Marcus shuffled beside him, his face pale and unreadable. "Well," he said after a long silence, "that's one way to end the night." Sam shot him a sharp look. "You betrayed us. Don't act like you were part of the solution." Marcus sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Look, I didn't know what I was getting into. Those guys," he gestured to the incapacitated soldiers, "they don't play around. They made me think I had no choice." "There's always a choice," Sam snapped. "You just didn't make the right one." Marcus rubbed the back of his neck, guilt written all over his face. "I guess I owe you a thank you. You saved my neck, even after I screwed you over." Sam shook his head, exhaling sharply. "This isn't about thanks. It's about cleaning up the mess you helped make." The sound of distant sirens cut through the stillness, growing louder as they approached. Marcus's eyes widened. Cops? Or, them? Could be both, Sam said, his mind racing. Either way, we can't be here when they show up. He turned toward the forest, motioning for Marcus to follow. Come on. We'll figure out what to do once we're clear of this place. They disappeared into the trees, moving quickly but cautiously. The sirens faded as they put more distance between themselves and the clearing. After a while, they came to a small, quiet road where Sam's car was still parked, hidden under an overgrowth of branches and leaves. As they climbed into the car, Marcus hesitated, his hand on the door. What about the tactical team? The drones? They're gonna keep coming, aren't they? Sam turned the key in the ignition, the engine sputtering to life. Not for Elira. She's gone. They have no reason to stay here anymore. But they know about us, Marcus pointed out. About you. Sam's grip on the steering wheel tightened. Then I guess we lie low. And if they come after us, we deal with it. The car rolled onto the road, its headlights cutting through the darkness. Neither of them spoke for a long time, the weight of what had happened settling between them like a heavy fog. Finally, Marcus broke the silence. So, do you think she'll be okay? Out there? Sam's jaw tightened, but his expression softened slightly. Yeah. She'll be okay. Her people came for her. She's where she belongs. Marcus nodded, staring out the window. And what about us? What happens now? Sam didn't answer immediately. He glanced at the phone on the passenger seat, its screen dark and unresponsive now that Elira's modifications were gone. A part of him felt emptier without her presence, but he knew she'd made the right choice to leave. I don't know, Sam admitted finally. But whatever happens, we keep moving forward. The road stretched out before them, long and empty under the pale light of the moon. As the forest fell away, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter, as if offering a silent promise of hope. A month later. Life had returned to a strange sort of normal. The tactical team had vanished without a trace, their search seemingly called off after Elira's departure. Sam had expected the government, or worse, to show up at his door, but the days passed quietly. He spent most of his time trying to put the pieces of his life back together. The encounter with Elira had left him with more questions than answers, but it had also left him with a deeper appreciation for the fragile beauty of life, both human and otherwise. One evening, as Sam sat on his apartment balcony, a faint flicker of light in the sky caught his eye. He leaned forward, squinting at the stars. For a moment, he thought he saw something, an iridescent shimmer, like the glow of Elira's ship. He smiled to himself, shaking his head. Wishful thinking. The doorbell rang, pulling him out of his thoughts. Sam stood, walking to the door and opening it cautiously. A small package sat on the welcome mat, unmarked except for a faint, glowing symbol etched into its surface, a symbol he recognized immediately. Sam's heart raced as he picked up the package and carried it inside. He set it on the table, staring at it for a long moment before carefully opening it. Inside was a sleek, metallic device, unlike anything he'd ever seen. Beside it was a small, glowing crystal and a folded note. The note, written in Elira's elegant script, read: Sam. Thank you for your courage and compassion. This device will guide you, should you ever need to find us. Your world is at a crossroads, and your actions may shape its future. Trust yourself. Until we meet again. Elira. Sam's breath caught as he read the note. He picked up the crystal, its faint glow warming his hand. The metallic device hummed softly as it activated, projecting a small, shimmering map into the air. A lump formed in his throat, and he smiled. I guess this isn't goodbye after all. He placed the device carefully on the table, his mind already racing with possibilities. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, Sam felt ready to face it. Somewhere out there, Elira and her people were watching. And if the time came when they needed him again, he'd be ready. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, a silent reminder that the universe was vast, mysterious, and full of hope. The end. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. For more exciting HFY stories. Your support means the world to us. And make sure to tap the bell icon, so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for our next adventure, and until then, keep exploring the stars. See you in the next video.